Welcome back. Lincoln Currency 2004D Roosevelt dime is one of those ordinary-looking American coins that can become extremely interesting when collectors discover an unusual mint error, double design detail, exceptional condition, or another genuine variety. At first glance, a 2004D dime looks like nothing more than a 10-cent coin, but the combination of its Denver Mint origin, Roosevelt portrait, distinctive symbols, historical background, and known die varieties makes it a coin worth examining carefully. The important thing to understand, however, is that a normal 2004D Roosevelt dime is not worth millions of dollars. Claims that a regular 2004D dime has a current market value of $76 million are not supported by reliable numismatic price records. PCGS lists the 2004D Roosevelt dime as a common modern issue with a mintage of 1,159,500,000 pieces, and its documented auction record is only $75 for an MS-68 example sold on eBay in 2018. The 2004D Roosevelt dime was struck at the United States Mint facility in Denver, Colorado, which is identified by the small D mint mark on the obverse, near the date. That tiny letter is one of the first things collectors should check when examining a 2004 dime. The coin belongs to the Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 and continues to the present day. The design was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the United States Mint. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in honor of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose image appears on the obverse. The coin was authorized in the middle of the 20th century and became an important part of American circulating currency. The 2004D dime has a diameter of approximately 17.90 millimeters and a standard weight of 2.27 grams. It is a clad coin rather than a silver coin. Its outer composition is primarily copper-nickel, with a pure copper center. PCGS identifies the composition as 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper core. The edge is reeded, meaning it contains the familiar series of small grooves around the circumference of the coin. These specifications are extremely useful when investigating a possible error because weight, diameter, edge appearance, and metal composition can help collectors determine whether a coin is normal, damaged, altered, or potentially struck on an unusual planchet. The obverse carries the portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left. Around the portrait are the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, while the date, 2004, appears toward the lower portion of the design. The D mint mark indicates that the coin was produced at Denver. Near Roosevelt's neck are the initials, JS, representing designer John R. Sinek. Those initials have an interesting history because, after the Roosevelt dime was introduced, rumors circulated that JS stood for Joseph Stalin. That story was false. The initials were simply Sinek's signature-style initials identifying him as the designer of the coin. The reverse of the Roosevelt dime is equally important. It features a torch in the center, surrounded by an olive branch and an oak branch. The inscriptions, United States of America, e pluribus unum, and one dime, complete the design. The torch represents liberty, while the olive branch traditionally represents peace, and the oak branch represents strength. Together, these elements give the Roosevelt dime a design that is much more symbolic than its small size might suggest. The coin may be only a few millimeters wide, but it carries a substantial amount of American history and symbolism. The most interesting part for collectors is the possibility of a genuine error or die variety. The 2004D Roosevelt dime is specifically documented with an FS101 doubled ear variety. This is a die variety in which the ear area on Roosevelt's portrait shows noticeable doubling. PCGS lists the 2004D FS101 doubled ear and the 2004 DFS 101 doubled ear with full bands as recognized varieties. This is different from ordinary damage. A coin that has been scratched, hit, squeezed, polished, chemically altered, or otherwise damaged after leaving the mint is not automatically considered a valuable mint error. A genuine error or variety normally needs to show characteristics consistent with a mint production process. That distinction is extremely important because social media videos often show ordinary damaged coins and describe them as million-dollar errors. Collectors should be cautious whenever a video claims that a common 2004 dime is worth tens of millions of dollars simply because it has discoloration, scratches, a strange edge, or a small mark. A real valuation depends on exactly what is unusual about the coin, whether the feature is a recognized mint error or variety, its condition, its certification, its rarity, and actual sales of comparable examples. The weight of 2.27 grams is one of the easiest tests a collector can perform. If a 2004 dime weighs close to the normal specification, that does not prove it is ordinary, but it does provide an important starting point. If the weight is dramatically different, the coin deserves further investigation. A significant weight difference could potentially indicate an unusual planchet, missing clad layer, wrong planchet, or another production anomaly, although a scale reading alone cannot prove a mint error. Collectors should also examine the diameter, thickness, edge, and overall appearance rather than relying on a single measurement. The phrase error coin covers many different possibilities. An off-center strike occurs when the planchet is not properly centered between the dies. A clipped planchet occurs when part of the blank is missing before striking. A broad strike can occur when the retaining collar fails to contain the planchet correctly. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a blank intended for another denomination. A doubled die is a die variety resulting from a doubling characteristic in the die itself. Missing clad layers can produce unusual surfaces and colors. Each type has different characteristics and different potential values. The rarity and quality of the specific error matter much more than simply calling the coin an error. The 2004 issue is particularly interesting because more than 1 billion examples were produced. Numista records 1,159,500,000 examples from Denver for 2004, which means the ordinary coin is plentiful. That huge production number explains why a normal circulated 2004 dime usually has little premium over its face value. A collector therefore needs something genuinely unusual to make one worth substantially more than 10 cents. Condition can also make a major difference. A circulated dime may have scratches, contact marks, discoloration, wear, and loss of detail. An uncirculated coin that has never been used in commerce can preserve much sharper details. Professional grading services assign grades on a numerical scale, with extremely high mint state grades representing exceptionally well-preserved coins. For modern coins, tiny differences in surface quality can make a large difference in collector interest, especially when a scarce variety is involved. Full bands, often abbreviated FB, can also be important for Roosevelt dime collectors. The bands on the torch can be examined for completeness and separation. On a high-grade Roosevelt dime, strong and complete bands can increase desirability. The 2004 D series includes a documented FS101 doubled ear variety with full bands, making the combination of the doubled ear characteristic and strong torch bands particularly interesting to specialists. The idea that a 2004 D dime is worth $76 million should therefore be treated as a sensational claim rather than an established market value. There is no reliable evidence in the sources checked that a 2004 D Roosevelt dime has sold for $76 million. In fact, the documented auction record shown by PCGS for the regular 2004 D dime is $75, while typical uncirculated examples are generally worth only modest amounts. USA Coin Book currently estimates a 2004D Roosevelt dime at about $2.50 or more in uncirculated condition, while ordinary circulated examples generally remain around face value. That does not mean every 2004D dime should be ignored. The real excitement is in finding something that can be authenticated as a legitimate mint-made error or recognized die variety. A coin that appears unusual should be photographed clearly on both sides, weighed on a precise digital scale, measured if possible, and compared with known examples. Collectors should avoid cleaning or polishing the coin, because cleaning can reduce its desirability and may complicate professional evaluation. If the suspected error is significant, submitting the coin to a reputable grading and authentication service can provide much stronger evidence than an online claim. The historical story behind the Roosevelt dime also makes the coin fascinating. Franklin D. Roosevelt remains the only U.S. president represented on the circulating dime, and the coin was created to honor his legacy. The design by John R. Sinek has remained one of the most recognizable pieces of American coinage. Even a modern 2004D example therefore connects everyday pocket change with decades of American monetary history. If you discover a 2004D dime, look closely at the date, the D mint mark, Roosevelt's ear and other facial details, the JS initials, the torch, the olive and oak branches, the lettering, the rim, and the reeded edge. Compare the coin with a known normal example. Pay particular attention to genuine doubling rather than simple scratches or machine damage. Examine the weight of 2.27 grams and look for evidence of an unusual planchet or missing clad material. Most importantly, do not assume that an unusual-looking coin is automatically worth thousands, millions, or $76 million. The true value of a 2004D Roosevelt dime comes from the specific coin, not simply from the date and mint mark. A normal circulated example may be worth only 10 cents. A high-grade example can bring a modest premium. A recognized doubled ear variety or a particularly strong full-band specimen can attract additional collector interest. A rare, authenticated mint error could potentially be worth considerably more, depending on the exact error and condition. But a $76 million valuation should not be presented as the current market value of a normal 2004D dime, because available numismatic records do not support that figure. This is what makes coin hunting so exciting. A coin that looks ordinary can sometimes deserve a second look, but the difference between a common coin and a valuable rarity is usually found in precise details, authentication, rarity, condition, and documented market demand. The 2004D Roosevelt dime is a perfect example. It was produced in enormous numbers, yet recognized varieties such as the FS101 doubled ear give collectors something specific to search for. The coin weighs just 2.27 grams, measures about 17.9 millimeters, carries the historic Roosevelt portrait, and features the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. So before spending or discarding a 2004D dime, take a moment to inspect it. Check the mint mark, check the date, check Roosevelt's ear, check the torch bands, check the edge, check the weight, and compare every unusual feature with reliable references. If you believe you have discovered a genuine mint error, do not clean the coin and do not rely solely on a viral price claim. Professional authentication and documented auction evidence are the best ways to determine whether the coin is merely an interesting pocket change find or a genuinely scarce collectible. The real treasure is not the $76 million headline. It is the possibility that a tiny piece of American history contains a legitimate rarity that most people would never notice.